guys? Brian Stevens here over at, as you know, the National Real Estate Post. However, we have rebranded ourselves, probably more appropriately, Mortgage Shots. Seeing that everybody who's ever worked here, who works here, and probably in the future will continue to work here comes from a mortgage background. That is, I think Steve Young, the old quarterback of the 49ers, once said, it's apropos. So coming to you from Mortgage Shots, and you can check out everything we have over at mortgageshots.com. Now listen, I'm going to try to bring you more lives and more content on a regular basis. Understand that everything that we do over here, that I do over here, is to help you kind of read the tea leaves of what the mortgage industry is going to do. In other words, the market of yesterday is not the market of today, nor is the market of today going to be the market of tomorrow. Our industry has always been fluid, it's always been in motion, and we can never be static. Kinetic is where we need to be with our business, and we need to read the tea leaves of what's going to take place tomorrow, sometimes based on what's happening today or in the past, and we need to pivot or adjust our sails so we can get through these the turbulent waters that we find ourselves in. Good news is, just to let you know, I'm pretty positive that we're going to have a nicer future come this spring. A number of things I believe are going to take place. And really, if we're not finding those results we want with our mortgage business right now, it doesn't change the fact that we have to be active with our activities on a regular basis. We have to have purpose-driven days. We need to be working on the bookends, between the bookends of the hours that we're going to work, whatever that may be for you. We need to be focused. If we're not finding the results today, we need to make sure that we are positioning ourselves for come spring or come when the market changes, that we've got the right players in place. You know, the truth is right now, just quickly, loan officers, how many of you are working with the top real estate agents in your area? I don't want to work with real estate agents. Well, you should have picked a different profession. You know what I mean? My agents aren't doing anything. Well, they're not doing anything because nobody's really doing anything right now. Look at, back in 1982, I used to collect Fleer baseball cards. But you see, I didn't want to collect all the damn baseball cards. I just wanted to get the good ones. I wanted to get the Bobby Bonds. I wanted to go out there and get the Gary Carters. I'm definitely dating myself, right? I wanted to get the cards of the good players, and I wanted to get multiples of those. I didn't care about the backup player for the Oakland A's, the backup catcher for the Oakland A's. I wanted to go out there and get the stars. Truthfully, as a loan officer, if you want to objectify this whole damn thing, you should be looking at the top real estate agents and real estate agent teams in your areas and saying, that's a baseball card I want in my collection. Because come game time, and it's going to happen, you want to be out of the gate first. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about industry news, and we're going to talk about what we can be doing about it with specific action plans that are all designed by and come out of this office. Now, you can agree with some of them, you can disagree with some of them. I really don't give a shit one way or the other. But if you don't try any of them, then you'll never really know if you're right or wrong. So if we're failing to come up with ideas, I hope over the course of the next couple of weeks, you'll find with a lot of my lives, not only more about the industry, but also more ways to make your business better. So I'm going to go through and see if we can see if our system is working the way that we need it to be. This first slide is pretty straightforward, isn't it? Just do it. Here's the deal. For loan officers, everybody knows what to do. Everybody has the solutions. There's nothing a coach is going to tell you that you don't already know. As I've said before, it's listen, I know how to do a triathlon. I absolutely know how to do a triathlon. I know you got to run too far, swim too much, and bike too long. Those are the three things you have to do. You have to do it a lot. You have to eat the right food. You have to get the appropriate sleep, and you have to have the right equipment. Because I can be aware of how these things, the things that need to take place in order to do a triathlon, doesn't get me 1 inch closer to where I need to be, which would be, participating in a triathlon. It's the same thing with our business. You got the answers for our business too. That doesn't mean two shits. It really doesn't. What matters is what you're doing with it. That's why I love this little picture. It's just the damn truth. What we have to do is realize where we're at, where our deficiencies are. And really what I want to get into at some point is talking to us about creating more efficiencies, kind of a symmetry in our industry. How we can check off multiple boxes at the same time in order to be more efficient with our time, and frankly, the appropriate use of technology. Here's where we're at right now. We're at Mortgage Shots. All you have to do is go to mortgageshots.com. You can check out our show. Feel free to subscribe. We'll give you 5 to 7 minutes of mortgage news on a daily basis with a little sales nourishment, and try to put a smile on your face in the process. Sometimes we succeed, sometimes we don't, but we do this stuff every day, and it all comes out of here. And it's kind of like this. If you like it, cool, share it. If you don't like it, hey, remember, even the Beatles wrote a shitty song. Led Zeppelin even wrote a shitty song one time. Here's the first thing that I kind of wanted to share with you real quickly, and I just can't get out of my mind how funny I find this. And there's a point to this story here. But did you see that the Oregon lawmakers just passed a bill undoing parts of the state drug decriminalization laws that they put in place a few years ago? I live in between Sacramento and San Francisco, and my whole family's up in the Pacific Northwest, up in, like Eugene to Portland to Vancouver, Washington, and all the way up to Seattle and the surrounding cities up there. So I get up there a whole bunch. So I've seen these cities, and I love Portland. It's one of the greatest places. It's one of the greatest cities on a great day that you'll ever go to. It's killer. But when they decided to go ahead and decriminalize criminals and criminalize the police and decriminalize drug offenses, the truth of the matter is there's only one thing that can happen. There's no good outcome that any reasonable, rational human being on the face of the planet is going to say is going to work out. Let's get rid of the cops who are going to enforce the laws. Let's decriminalize criminals, get them out of jail. Let's take away any criminal offense that involves any type of illicit drug activity. Then I'm not talking about smoking weed, guys. I'm talking about pulling out glass pipes and shit like that, right? That's probably a bad idea. So here we are, we're a couple of years later, and everybody up in Portland is going, my God, this is a bunch of bullshit. We can't have this anymore. We need to have police in the streets. We need to get rid of, these ridiculous laws that we have. And I asked him, like, where were you people 2 years ago? I mean, are we truly that naive, or are we truly that idealistic to where what we want to have as an outcome is simply going to happen because that's what we choose to believe? I get the idea that we want to assume that people aren't criminals. Totally get it. Totally get it. I get the idea that we don't like to have Big Brother looking over our shoulder with police. Totally get it. I mean, I get it. But make no bones about it, there's only one outcome that was going to take place here. And on some logical level, we all kind of know that, don't we? I mean, this was a no-brainer to call. It's like, oh, really? This is what we're doing? What are the options on how this thing could turn out? There wasn't a good option on the table. Here's the point. We can be wildly irrational with what we believe the outcomes of actions are going to be it ourselves or externally. And I'll tell you this, for as crazy as these people in Portland are for believing that this whole experiment was going to work out, it is intellectually dishonest to believe anything other than, in my opinion. But what does that say about our ability to objectively go ahead and forecast the outcome of our own personal activities? Think about that in terms of your business. Are your actions enough right now to do the things that you need to do in order to get the outcomes that you want to have, that you believe you should have? Do you believe that to be true? And if you say yes and you're not meeting your goals, then you're not being honest with yourself. And all I ask is we start talking about some of this stuff, and I want to hear what you have to say. Make sure we put it in the comments down below and share this. That would be super helpful. The only thing I ask is try to be a little bit more honest with ourselves, even when it stings. In fact, particularly when it stings. Let's not always give ourselves a break. Let's not always be our cool boss and just say that everything is okay in our world and it's everything that's external that's causing me all the problems that I'm facing right now. Let's be a little bit more honest. Because here's a couple of points that I believe in. I call it the paradox of change. And that's striving to improve, striving to change while knowing change is uncomfortable and nearly impossible to accomplish. Why are we going to go down this road if the more I try, the more difficult I'm going to find it to be? Well, because the alternative is doing nothing about it and groveling about the situation you find yourself in. And if you find yourself watching this video right now, then I would beg to say that there's a good chance that we're trying to find solutions to our business. And again, I've already told you, you already have all the answers. There's not a damn thing I'm going to tell you that couldn't get you where you need to be. There's no coach that you can pay. There's no company that you can work for. There's no rate that you can sell. There's no inventory you can have that can get you where you need to be. You are the only person who can decide that. You're your one and only commodity that you have, not your brand, not your card, not your technology. It's you. Separately from this, we have to understand that we need to go small with our business. A lot of people talk about it, but boy, I've been talking about this just for years. We need to go small with our business. We need to understand that our collective ability to formulate an idea, a strategy, pick it up, and run with it until it works, regardless of the pain and frustration, is what's going to separate you from others. In short, what type of grit do you have? There's a great book that I read. I believe it was called Grit, and I want to say this gal's name was Hogshead or something like that. Anyways, what she said in there is they did a survey. They did a study of like West Point enrollees. But West Point's going to get the best of the best. Everybody who's enrolling in West Point is the top of their class, the quarterback of the football team, the academic scholar, that whole thing. Yet West Point has a washout rate of somewhere to the tune of 50%, and I'm kind of paraphrasing here, but you get the idea. The numbers are wildly out of whack of what you would expect from people who've already proven to be overachievers. Well, why is that? Well, the truth is it doesn't matter where you're at if you're an overachiever. It doesn't matter what intelligence you have. It doesn't even necessarily entirely manage what your physical capabilities are. Well, most people wash out when they're going through the physical activity drills. what they found is the common denominator of West Point graduates who make it through aren't necessarily the smartest, they could be, aren't necessarily the toughest, but what they do is they all display a form of grit, and grit is, I'm going to continue doing it, as Mike Tyson says, I'm going to do the things I hate to do, and I'm going to act like I like it when I'm going through the process. It's grit. It's your ability to embrace pain, and pain avoidance is where we're going to find our washout rate. Again, nothing that you don't know. I understand that. But do we always embody this? Going back to my analogy of a triathlon, I get the whole thing. I ain't any closer to doing it, but I get it. What I have to do is I have to start doing it, right? We need walkers, my friends. We don't need talkers. Here's one of the reasons why I think things are going to be looking up for us in the business that's going to be external, but this doesn't matter unless we do something about it. And what we're looking at here is Fannie Mae's housing forecast for a number of different things, one of which is going to be interest rates. I found this interesting. Now listen, I know there's a bunch of rate prognosticators out there. I don't know what any of them say. I don't follow any of them. I'm kind of thinking this. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, if they were combined, would be the largest, most profitable company in the history of the world. Apple, suck it. Fannie and Freddie would be bigger. They controlled trillions upon trillions of dollars. So my thinking, somewhere in this whole Fannie Freddie housing mix thing, that they've hired some pretty good prognosticators themselves. So I'm going to listen to them as a source that I think is at least going to hold a certain higher level of credibility, right? So over here, if we look at what just came out in their February forecast, if we go into the second quarter of 2024, it's of course, it's highlighted with the yellow, and it's right above the red. For the second quarter of 2024, we see rates of 6.3, third quarter 6.1, and fourth quarter 5.9. In fact, we're looking at the first quarter of this upcoming spring of rates going down to 6.5. Well, we saw rates go down today. Yay! Does that mean, well, we could probably see a couple more bumps. But if you're to believe the biggest, most successful housing company in the history of the world ever, if you're to believe their prognostications, what this tells us is we're going to see rates that are dipping down, which in and of itself doesn't mean a hill of shit to any one of us. Because the truth is home prices are going to be based on what that payment is, not what the rate is. That's all it is. We are in an inventory short environment right now, and until that changes, nothing else matters. I don't want to get too much on a tangent on this, but I don't know if you remember this back in the 1980s. Tokyo, Japan, it was the most expensive real estate in the world. This was when like Sony was killing it, Honda was killing it, you know. That's when the first like Nintendos came out and everybody had like 9 of them. But anyways, what they did is nobody could afford real estate. So Japan came out with a 100-year mortgage. And now we're, 40, 50 years removed from those 100-year mortgages, and we can ask ourselves, well, how did they perform? If you have a 100-year mortgage and it's at a 7% interest rate, it's going to be your payment's going to be a hell of a lot less than if it was a 30-year loan. What they discovered was it didn't amount to a hill of beans because people just went and they bid those properties up until they met their payment threshold. Not what they perceived to be their sales price threshold. Had nothing to do with the interest rate. It was where that payment landed, and that was the one point and will always be the one point. We collectively are going to go and find out what we can afford. Damn the torpedoes, damn the rates, damn the sales price. It doesn't matter. It's all based on payment. So all we did was we said, well, a 30-year loan, a 100-year loan, I want that house. This is a payment I can afford. So the truth is we already have precedents about the effect of interest rates and sales prices on properties. It really doesn't matter. If rates went down, let's just hypothetically say, and just put on your little logic hat right now. Let's say rates went down to 4%. Rates went down to 1%. For real estate agents, what would that mean? Well, it means your commissions would go up because sales prices would go through the roof. Everything is weighed, everything is calibrated on your payment. When rates go down, sales prices are going up. That's just how the whole thing is going to work out. So rates are not what we need to be looking at. How this is going to affect us positively is going to be for the refinance market. So again, prognosticating, looking at the future here, once we get to the second or the third quarter of 2024, which is going to put us 4, 5, 6 months out, we're going to start seeing rate and term refinances. They're going to come back and play, and they're going to start to get back to what would, at least for a year or two, I would think, get to be where refinance norms are. We're going to see the massive spike up front, and then, of course, we'll start to see that trickle off. 20% of the 3% mortgages are never going to do anything. The other benefit of lower interest rates are going to be folks are going to start to move, because there's a lot of folks that believe, like, listen, I got a 3 right now, and I'm not coming off my 3 to go get a 7 or 7.5% interest rate, but I might come off my 3 rate and go get the house I really want if I can get a rate somewhere in the 5s. It's human nature just to kind of rationalize this stuff to ourselves, right? After all, we are consumers. I know we're consumers, and I've said this a million times before, but I know that we are consumers because right now there's a 55-year-old guy who can't afford it. It's going to buy a $120,000 2024 Corvette on an 18% interest rate. You want to know why? Because goddamn it, he deserves it. Well, I've always deserved to have that Corvette. You're behind on your 3 other leases. Well, I need that Corvette. We're consumers, guys. Rates don't matter here. But again, I'm not going to say rates don't matter entirely, but not in the perception or the conceivable way that I think most real estate agents and lenders think. I think people think rates going down brings affordability back to the table, and I say hogwash. It's going to all be about the payment here. But if we do have opportunity, it could be more listing opportunities, more inventory, which could slightly affect sales prices temporarily, but it's going to be more opportunities for our real estate agents. And of course, when people pack their shit and move, chances are they need to go borrow somebody else's money, and that's where you come in as a loan officer to provide them the money necessary in order to accomplish their dreams, right? And the person who can get in the middle of more conversations about real estate is the one ultimately who's going to win. So the simple question we need to be asking ourselves is, how the hell do we do that? Well, here's the thing, guys. You're looking 4 or 5 months away from getting into one of these markets where more of those conversations are going to take place. And what are you doing about it? The U.S. economy is so strong that there might not be rate cuts in 2024. The only reason I put this in here, all right, well, we've seen this, and the Fed has just come out again and said, listen, I don't know if we're going to be lowering anything. Bottom line is the Fed is going to spend most of 2024 fighting inflation. I just read an article earlier today that said we're starting to see the impact on the cost of inflated goods and the manufacturing of the crap that we buy. So all of our imports that are coming in from overseas and our manufacturing that's taking place here, that's had all the inflationary problems in the past, is going to start to hit in hard numbers what we're purchasing, which means that we probably are going to get another bump in inflation. If we get another bump in inflation, what are you going to do? You're going to expect the Feds to hold tight with the Fed fund rate. Again, don't listen to me. I'm horrible at this stuff. There's a million people who are better at me, but that's kind of like the idea. Not affecting mortgage interest rates. That's going to come with a Fed balance sheet more so, but it does affect the payments people are making on everything else. And again, I'm paraphrasing here, but another study came out, not too surprising, that people falling behind on their credit cards or making minimum payments are higher now than they have ever been historically. And there was a survey that was just recently done of the car sales shops, and what they collectively came to the conclusion is they have never seen such poor credit borrowers than they have ever seen. So canary in the coal mine type of moments here. The idea of rates coming down, it just doesn't seem terribly likely. But again, remember what we're talking about is the Fed fund rate. So the Feds can go ahead and keep their rates. The Feds can go ahead and keep their rates artificially high as we have right now, the Fed fund rate, and that's going to make everything else more expensive. However, there could be interest in mortgage-backed securities or the Feds increasing their balance sheet, which could make Fannie Mae's projections of lower interest rates in the second and third quarter of this year come true. So these 2 points don't necessarily have to be conflicting, and that's why like I said, if I'm betting on a table, I'm going to take my money and I'm throwing it all on Fannie Mae's projections. Here's one of the reasons that I thought so. So have you guys seen this? This is a trip. You know, if you look at like Evergrande as a company, Evergrande is a Chinese builder, biggest in the world, construction real estate. They at one point were building what is the equivalent of 2/3 of Manhattan all at the same time, and I'm talking like just a couple of years ago. But what they do in their markets is they were raising capital and building at the same time. It's not as if they had secured the money to complete other construction. They were gathering the money as they were building. And as the markets turned and the money dried up and a government bailout became not only unlikely, but not only implausible, but it turned out to be impossible, all of those international funds that were backing Chinese manufacturing and Chinese construction, well, a lot of that money, it seems to me, is going to want to park itself into safer markets. So are they going to come to U.S. markets and buy and park their money in areas that might not give them as big of a return? However, is going to be secure for them, as I guess the U.S. economy is still viewed as being that could have an impact on rates. Once again, there's other people who know this stuff way more than I do. But if we see international funds being parked over in the United States, we find it in secure areas like bonds and bills, then certainly we might see interest rates fulfill what Fannie Mae is talking about. Here's a couple other thoughts when we're thinking about our business. Again, we all know what we're doing. I talk to loan officers and realtors all the time. I'm like, what's your plan? Like, seriously, right now, I ask you, like, what is your plan? Like, do we show up to work and do we know exactly what we're going to do so we have a purpose-driven day? Showing up to work with no plan is no different than showing up with a hangover. And nobody knows that better than me. What happens when you show up with a hangover at work? You're just kind of like, man, I got to just get through today. If your mindset is, I just need to get through today, you've already failed the day. I can be lazy today. I can be less than my best today because, damn it, I'll just go ahead and hit this thing tomorrow. Does that ever really happen? Guys, we have have to have a plan. When you show up to work, you have to know what you're doing. Like, so for instance, when you work at McDonald's, when you work at a damn Denny's, maybe not Denny's, it might be 24 hours. That kind of thing though. You have, your cooks that go in, they start the deep fryer, they turn the ovens on, they start cooking their bacon, the waitresses put their salt and pepper on the table, the busboys, make sure their water's clean and all that shit. We know how to open up a restaurant. We know how to open up shop. I wonder if loan officers have the same approach about opening up shop. Hear me out on this. If you don't, if you're not time blocking right now, which is where you want to ultimately get to be, let's just not eat the whole elephant. Let's just take this one bite at a time. If we don't, a great little tip is to figure out what you do to open up shop each and every morning to get you started on the right path. 4 or 5 things that we need to do. So what I recommend to do, here's what I'd do, is I would go into my CRM. I would have a list of realtors that I want to communicate with or I am communicating with. I would have them on a list where I can send a short video out about the direction of interest rates for the day, a helpful tip, something that you can do in 30 seconds, and a reminder of what you do and that you're open for shop and you're here to help them out. Now, I use Bonzo. I don't promote Bonzo. I don't love it. I don't hate it. It's just what I have right now, and I know how to actually use it. So I go in and I do this video every day. And the whole process takes me 5 minutes. The whole thing, shooting. Now, I shoot a lot of videos, but shooting my video, sending my video, and then starting to get analytics on my video, and I don't miss it, and I do it in the morning because it's what I do when I open up shop. Just like when you go into McDonald's, they're going to turn on the fryer for the fries. When I go into work, I'm going to shoot my little video so I have some type of outreach going in my local market. That's the thoughts. Now, here's the question you should be asking yourself. Well, you probably are asking yourself, well, does it work? Are people watching it? Is it getting you business? Here's my response. Doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. That's what really kind of hangs up loan officers and realtors all the time. We get so caught up with what the results of our activities are going to be, we forget what the most important component is. The component is our activity. See, we are the activity. We are not the result. You are the action. You are not the outcome. Understand that point. That's the beginning of a plan, and that's the beginning to changing your business around. You see, all I'm asking you to do is take small steps, little tiny steps. Don't take the big ones first. Get some shit that you can do, and what you need to ask yourself is, can I commit to doing this every day for a month, come hell or high water? And I don't care if you're sick. I don't care if something comes up. You commit to that for a month, that becomes your priority. Nothing is more important than getting that done. And you can make an argument for that to be the case. Getting your shit together and getting your business on track where it needs to be for this spring is the most important thing that you can do because stuff is difficult right now. How's that savings look? What's that bank account look like right now, right? The reason is frankly, most of your competition isn't going to do it. The people who come out of the gates this spring are going to take 75% of the market. They're going to come out there and they're going to tear it up because they have their act together. And there's going to be those who are late to the game, still playing by yesterday's rules, waking up with a hangover or no plan or whatever the case is, but the vast majority of you are going to come out of the blocks and trip. For those who have their shit together, who have their plan, and they start it right now, this spring is going to be a great time for you. And if you want to see something interesting, seriously, watch the attrition rate in the mortgage and real estate space. We think we've seen a lot of people leave now. You ain't seen nothing yet. You hear this, 80,000 realtors have been out of the business. 60,000 realtors have been out of the business since last October. I can't believe these numbers. It's like, I can't believe it's not 600,000. That's what I can't believe. And the truth of the matter is, what if it wasn't 60,000? What if it was 600,000 agents? Riddle me this answer. If 600,000 real estate agents left the business tomorrow, what would that do to the reputation of the real estate industry? I'm not going to answer it. That's for you to answer. I wrote down here, have a dream, have a routine, have a plan. I didn't write down here, have an objective, because frankly, that's too sterile. Have a dream, which is an objective, then have a plan of attack and a routine that's going to go ahead and get you where you need to be. Sometimes I treat my gifts like obligations. What this gets to is the whole idea of entitlement versus gratitude. When we look at our referral partners, when we look at the fact that we're going to work, when we figure out that we have to have a plan, when we look at the fact that we have rates that we can sell, and we have this great system in place to easily and affordably get people money, and you get paid a king's ransom for it. Sometimes we look at these gifts that we have in our life, and it's a gift what you can do. We treat them like obligations, and when we treat them like obligations, we don't perform our best. A loan officer, a real estate agent at their best is one of the best professions you'll ever have. You get to go and look at people's lives like a voyeur. That's kind of interesting. You get to help people out. Do we lose sight of that? We get to make dreams come true. You get to financially save people. If a loan officer is doing his job right now, he is out there talking to his folks right now who are holding some of this $1.13 trillion in debt and paying 29% interest on it. and you're having the hard conversations with those folks. You're having the hard conversation saying, you need to fix this. I know you don't like my second cash out debt consolidation refinance that I'm offering right now because it's got a rate of 9%, but I got to tell you, it beats the shit out of that 19% or that 29% that you're paying right now. And when you blend your 3% mortgage and you get rid of all that crap debt and you have a 9% rate, you have a blended rate of 5.5%. And right now your blended rate's sitting at 16. I'll tell you right now, if you don't do something about your situation with all this crap that you bought that you don't need, that you have to pay off, you're going to find yourself with a sheriff at your front door kicking your ass out of here because your payment, missing that payment, is an inevitability at this point. Of course, we don't want to have it in these terms. This is where your sales skills come in. But the truth is, that's a gift to be able to help our friends, isn't it? My friends, your family, your profession, your referral partners, your clients, your staff, they deserve the best from you. Thing is, as a loan officer or a real estate agent, understand that your performance affects the lives of a lot of folks. There's a doctor, there's a processor, there's receptionists, owners of companies who own giant jets. Fly them around. There's, you got to pay for those soon. It's just, listen, guys, there's a lot of folks who rely on you to be the best version of yourself. Just don't treat those gifts like they're obligations. Easier said than done sometimes, but think about it. Here's the other thing to look at right now. We've heard that, again, yesterday, today, and tomorrow, got to live in the moment and do what we need to do today with mindful of tomorrow and respectful of yesterday. Yesterday, we saw that property values were going down for a minute. That's still the narrative with half the country right now. However, in most markets, that's not the case. I just had a conversation with some real estate agents out in New Jersey 2 nights ago. They were talking about houses in Pennsylvania, New Jersey. I forget what the names of this. I think one was York, and I can't remember the other one. But they're saying these houses are going on the market, and in 2 days, there's 50 offers on them. This is in Pennsylvania. No, I didn't mean that. Who wants to live in Pennsylvania? Hey, listen, I'm a 49ers fan, so I'm still resentful about that Eagles game 2 years ago. Fact of the matter is that property values are going up all across the country, in spite of the fact that we're in a high-rate environment. Again, another reason for me to say if real estate agents and our only plan is wait for rates to go down because we're expecting the real estate market to offer us a little relief, the only relief we're going to get is from additional inventory, which this slide is kind of showing you right here. We right now are effectively about 7% above where we were in 2022. So in 2022, we were sitting at 49,019. Now we're at 52. So the lighter of the two bars over there is 2022 and the darker is 2023. And so that's our year over numbers. So we are trending in the right direction. And I have another great slide. Okay, so what this slide shows us here is this goes from 1982 to 2020, or actually 2023, let's call it 24. So this is going to get us 22 years, right? 42 years. The dark blue is our new construction. And the truth is, if we go back over the past 42 years, new construction right now isn't trending much below where it's been effectively over that period. However, it is worth pointing out that back in 1982, we had a population of around 200 million. Right now, we have a population of 370 million. So we're doing slightly more in terms of construction. However, our population density is almost doubled. So meaning, yes, we're behind on our new construction and we need that new inventory. But the real big bugaboo is the lighter blue, which is stacked on top. And that figure is our existing home inventory. That's the number that needs to come up. And that's a big number that needs to come up. Again, something to think about. All of these folks who are falling behind on their payments right now, and there's a ton of them who are holding all that debt, there's a ton of them who loan officers and realtors aren't going to do their job and get through to try to fix their situation, and there's a ton of them too. When all of that shit coalesces and comes together and nothing happens, that turns into our next market's inventory. Did he just say that foreclosures are a good thing for the market? You bet your ass I did. I think foreclosures are a great thing for the market. If you have people who are in houses who aren't making their payment, they're also not paying their taxes on those buildings, and they're certainly not taking care of any of the deferred maintenance, which isn't good for any of our communities. Yep, I say get somebody in that house, get a new loan on that debt, get a new loan over there on that property, get our real estate agents, get our lenders paid, and get somebody who's going to pay their taxes. Yeah, I do. It's not that I don't care for the person who can't or doesn't make their payment, or who decided to go buy a toy hauler and like wave runners and quad runners and entertainment centers and God knows what up, the jacked up, new F-350 that they commute to their chiropractic job in. It's not that I don't sympathize with that. I'm just saying, I think pragmatically we need to get people in homes. And so I think, and to a certain extent, you can make an argument that future foreclosures for which it appears they're coming is going to be a good thing for the market. It will bring health, kind of like a forest fire kind of helps out a forest. Well, getting rid of some of the dead weight over here, not only in the real estate industry, but folks who aren't making their mortgage payments, replacing them with people who will, that's going to have an exponentially compounding positive effect on our communities, and it's going to be very positive for the real estate and lending community. The other one that's coming up is, they talk about it, I don't know if you've heard this term, It's called the silver tsunami. What's the silver tsunami? Think of the beehives, the blue beehives, the silver tsunami. The largest and richest equity land holders in the United States are going to be our baby boomers. They reign king. They own everything. Since the great American handout that we got post-COVID when we decided that my kid needed $7,000 for no good reason, that led to the inflation we have right now, I think that effectively added that event alone added $70-something thousand to the bottom line of every baby boomer in the country. But one thing baby boomers don't have is time. Now, I'm not being macabre. I've talked about this before. I love my mom as much as anybody loves their mom. I got the sweetest, the nicest, most wonderful human being you have ever met in your life is my mother, as I'm sure yours is too. Love her to death. Couldn't live with her anymore. It's too much, but love her to death. But I'm also aware of where we are in reality. And the truth is that silver tsunami, our baby boomers, as they start to age, and they're choosing to age in place, which is creating a complication for the status quo. But as time goes on, that inventory is going to come available, and it's already being nicknamed the silver tsunami. So opportunity, yes, we're going to find more opportunity in terms of our inventory. We're going to see a slight shift in rates that are going to work to our advantage. And as we've already seen, inventory is going in the right direction. Rates down, inventory up. This is what we're talking about. It's not as bad as you think it is. This is actually kind of an interesting one. 1 in 5 prospective sellers are considering becoming landlords. So one of the things that I like to do with realtors and lenders that I work with is we identify different trends. Like, so for instance, we go look at people who have a high probability of missing payments. So we go get homeowners who have like a 640 or lower credit score. We get somebody who's owned their house for like 4 years or longer. Somebody who we get their phone numbers. But the reason we do this is because that's a person who's going to go into pre-foreclosure. If they have a 640 credit score, we know when they bought the house. We know they had a 780 credit score. We know that because that's the average credit score of all your Fannie, Freddie, and Ginnie notes, right? All your conforming agency stuff. So if they're down to a 640 or below, that means their credit's gone to shit. If their credit's gone to shit, that means they've been big consumers of debt. That $1.3 trillion in outstanding debt at record high rates right now, that's them, okay? These are people who are missing their payments, maxed out their cards, and are on a one-way trajectory of going over the edge of the bridge or going over the edge of the dam. I'm mixing my metaphors up. It doesn't necessarily have to be that way, but that would be an example of how we are identifying folks out there. But this is interesting. What we have found through the process is that there's a lot of folks who actually want to hold on to that rate so bad, but still want to move so bad. What they're really considering is I want to keep the house because I want to keep the rate. We never have heard that before in the history of this country, in our industry. I want to keep the house because I want to keep the rate. We're like Gollum in Lord of the Rings, this precious. And I understand it. You don't want to necessarily do a cash out refinance because now the 3 is going to go to a 7. But what if you did like a second mortgage? You keep that 3 intact on the house that they're in. What if you did a second on that? You pulled out a little of the record equity that they're still sitting on. Record equity. Did you know that 46% of people who own houses in this country are still deemed to be equity rich? What that means is it's actually over 46% of the population who own homes have at least half the value of their property in equity. It's an enormous number. Even though things have dipped down a little bit, we're still marching back upwards, aren't we? All of that opportunity that is just pent up and tied up in equity, and we as an industry are doing nothing about it. Well, Brian, I don't know. That seems too hard. I've never done it before. I get it. There's a whole generation of loan officers out there who've never done anything but refinances and agency loans. But here's what I do know. I do know my friends over at Oaktree. I know that they have a 90% investment property loan that they can provide for your folks. You only need to put 10% down and you could buy an investment property if you chose to. Yeah, you can do that. Could we pull cash out? Certainly things that we need to look at. What I'm saying is that if 1 out of 5, a full 20% of folks who are looking at selling their houses want to hold on to those houses, you as a loan officer, you have the solution in your hands if you just choose to look at the scenario and understand the products. I'm dating myself here, but when you go back to like 2007, 2008, that's how many years ago? 20, 24, 26. It's, oh my God, my life is flying before my eyes. But, there's a whole generation of loan officers who've never done anything but Fannie, Freddie, Ginnie loans. They don't know that you can actually still manually underwrite files, that you can get exceptions done on files, that there are programs and products out there to fit and suit all types of buyers and sellers. And what we're not doing is we're not sharing that with our real estate agent partners. We're not doing any of that because a lot of us don't know that that's what we need to do. That's what a full-time professional loan officer does. It's not your ability to go ahead and process paperwork. It's not your ability to understand Encompass, which, by the way, is the most horrifying piece of software I've ever experienced in my life. I can't believe anybody uses it, but that's just me. But we don't understand what our role truly is, and it's to understand our products. And if you think about this, I had a conversation with Dave Stevens, who just recently passed away. And it was probably a decade ago. And we were talking, he was explaining to me how Fannie and Freddie needed to change their underwriting standards and their guidelines. He goes, because it doesn't fit what our standard worker looks like, our gig economy worker looks like anymore. Gone are the days of going and working at Chrysler for 40 years and getting a watch and a plaque. Lots of young folks are coming out. They're contracted workers. They're 1099 workers out there, right? You have to be able to have those products available. And they exist out there in droves. But we have to go out there and figure out what these products look like. That's getting in the weeds on this. The idea is that you're going to find solutions to the problem that I'm presenting to you right now with this little proposition that 1 in 5 prospective sellers are considering becoming landlords. With mortgage interest rates hovering over 7%, prospective sellers may find themselves at least thinking about renting out instead of selling. About 21% of homeowners with moving plans are considering renting out their home. Man, as a loan officer, I sure would like to have an answer for that. The question is, off the top of your head, can you name the program that's going to fit that for you? This one, we don't need to talk about this one right now. Suffice it to say this, and I'll get into this later, but there's a lot of turbulence in the mortgage and real estate space right now. There's just a lot of turbulence. And it's coming from a variety of areas and angles that we don't necessarily see or know, or frankly, need to understand from an originator's perspective or from a realtor's perspective. The only thing I would recommend is this, is as we're going forward, you'll know the health of your company when you look at underwriting, you look at turn times, and you look at your rates relative to the rest of the industry. If you're in line with all those things, you're probably doing pretty good. But just as a loan officer, guys, I'm an advocate for loan officers. I'm an advocate for real estate agents. Just keep an eye on what's going on around you and always be a critical observer. That's going to help you out. Hey, listen, I think right now, we've done ourselves a pretty fantastic job. So I think what we're going to do, my friends, is I think we're going to bounce. Hey, listen, if you liked what you saw today, make sure you share it. We're going to be coming to you with great information, topical information, hopefully on about a daily basis. Then my goal is to get you more involved. But this is our coming out party after a while of, frankly, not doing it because we've just been tinkering with other things. But I think it's back to videos and re-engaging with loan officers and realtors. With that said, it's remarkably humbling that you join us. I appreciate you guys a ton. Even if sometimes you don't think I do, I really do. All right, my friends, thank you so much, and I'll talk to you soon.